It is, yeah, because
Yeah.
that was in Kentucky and I'm in Florida, so that was all over. I got this newfound like faith and this new enthusiasm, this new energy and drive. But as soon as I got home, at this point, I started like selling drugs as a way to make earning, and I still had bills to pay, so I kind of went right back into the whole thing.
Right.
And God has a way of showing up, and He was like, he doesn't intend to hurt anybody, right? But I got in a car accident. And that car accident, I was unharmed, not a scratch on me. My car was total. I shouldn't have been unharmed, but my entire front end was like an accordion. But I walked away perfectly fine, and that caused me to have to move from where I was because, I needed to kind of just be able to get back on my feet. And if I had a
Right.
vehicle, I couldn't pay rent, I couldn't do all this stuff. I couldn't even sell my drugs because I couldn't drive around. So end up leaving there and just completely getting clean, and end up moving to a whole different city. And now like I'm totally detoxed and I'm there now. It's like, okay, well, it's like I kept feeling that tug at me again too as well. And I kept seeking. So I was still, a few times a week I'd go and get like a six pack and just kind of be by myself in my room and again still try and mask these pains, mask these
Yeah.
troubles,
Hmm.
and drinking like a day drinker for no reason. Like why am I
Right.
drinking if I'm not at a party, I'm not hanging out by myself in my room? It's an addiction to do that.
Yeah.
Still seeking like who could I find to get some drugs from?
That's one
And
of the greatest deceptions that I know I've experienced in my life, and a lot of men do. It's like we get changed from, like, mine was meth and opiates and stuff like that, pills. And we come out of this extreme thing, and then we think it's okay to drink, right? And so it starts out
hmm
casual on the weekend or something, then it kind of builds up, and then you find yourself almost back in the same pit that you came out of,
yes,
and that was me. Like, well, alcohol's not a sin. Blah, blah, blah. It's like,
yeah.
these stupid debates that don't even matter. But I didn't ask myself, is this actually benefiting me? Does this increase my life? Does it make it better? Does it give me greater intimacy with my wife? Does it create a better business? No. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, I was sitting there. I was probably about 250 pounds,
Uh-huh.
just in horrible shape. I didn't want to look at myself in the mirror and things like that. There's all these different things that happen as a result of it. But again, it's still masking. But um, and something happened, and that's around a time where I started like, okay, let me stop it. I met a friend. He was into working out. Started going to the gym together, and he was a Christian. I started noticing every Sunday he'd bring his Bible to work, and I was like, he's like, I gotta keep God first. I gotta keep God first. And I was like, all right. And I remembered what happened in Kentucky, and I was like, you know what? Let me start praying. Let me, pull out my Bible. Let me read the New Testament. Let me see what this is really about. But again, I didn't have a Bible. I had to like download the app on my. I think I was probably one of the very first, thousands of people who downloaded the YouVersion Bible app that's, used by billions now.
Yeah.
Back in iPhone 1 days. So I started reading, and then I met my wife, and the very first thing she invited me to before we even talked about a relationship or anything like that, she invited me to a Bible study. And in that atmosphere was kind of like, I didn't say it out loud, but internally I was like, I was recommitting my life, to Christ, to follow Christ, and to be able to like, go on that straight and narrow. And from that, at that point, like I stopped. I never looked back as far as like, oh, I need to have like a drink after work, and or during the daytime, my days off, starting 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, getting not just a six pack, I'm talking like 12-pack bottles, things like that. It's just more hardcore. So it wasn't, it was like a one-step program to give your life to Christ and continue following Him. And it was amazing, like that recovery that I went through
Uh-huh.
from that point, from being a young kid just trying to mask these problems, try and do it by drug, alcohol, and then realizing that really the only addiction I need to have is one to be in love with Jesus.
Right.
It's kind of where
Yeah.
kind of the foundation we have in our business now. Like God's part of our business. We pray with our clients, things that are important to us, and we set that foundation now.
That's awesome, brother. That's so awesome. I think, as men, the two of the biggest things in result to the fall is this fear-based nature that we have, and it causes us to run and hide. And then the second is then we lie about it. You know what I mean? And we don't
Yeah.
tell the truth, and uh, we don't share what's going on in our lives, and we just stuff it, stuff it,
Hmm.
stuff it, stuff it, and we're running and we're hiding and we're scared and we just keep stuffing. And thank goodness that God brings us to the light and brings that revelation and that change, man. That's
Yeah,
it's
amen to
amazing,
that.
right?
Yeah.
That's
And yeah, I mean, that's like you're able to like articulate a lot of what I was feeling because it was stuffing it. Like I said, there was bricks that was poured up just to kind of block these things. Like I don't want to, have to deal with the emotion of everything that's going on to actually be a certain kid. And there's other things that happened in my childhood too as well, like molestation and just some other stuff that just really just needed to be in a closet. And at least I felt that way. It needed to be in a
uh-huh.
closet to never be told to anybody. Because
Right.
again, as a man, that's not something that I wanted to share with any other
Hmm.
people, anyone to know like my deepest, darkest
Right.
secrets of what's happened to me and what's going on, what's in my mind right now. So I was masking like, hey, let's be happy, let's have fun, let's get smashed and and just black out or not remember anything is happening.
Right.
Stuff it
Yeah.
all up.
Hey, I have a ultimate question that a lot of people want to know. But what's your why? What keeps you sober? What keeps you on the path?
It's my children, my wife, my entire family right now because I know what like I kind of mentioned it, but the hurt, the trauma like I felt as a kid growing up without having a father, without having that mentorship, that guidance, the leadership in the household. So, I want to make sure that I have that for my children. They're all 7 and under. I have my oldest is a boy.
Yeah.
So it's like I know that they look at my every move, right? So they see if I'm texting while driving. They see if you know what I mean. Like they look at everything and they tell me like
Yeah.
you shouldn't be texting while driving. I'm like, what are you talking about? I wasn't doing that.
Right.
You know, but they see
So
everything.
sometimes
So
I drop the S bomb every once in a while. My kids be like, "Don't cuss."
yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, so right now, yeah, that's my biggest why. I know that in order for me to be the most impactful leader in my household, the most impactful husband, the most impactful father, there's no place for that.
Yeah.
The most impactful servant for God, there's no place for that. There's really no place for that at all in my life, and that's what really just kind of it keeps me going. It keeps me. Do the thoughts come up like now and then? Sure. Do they quickly get brushed aside? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's it's the constant journey now where it's like that's my past. It molded me into some of my characteristics and my strengths, but it doesn't define me anymore.
Right. That's powerful. I think one of the best exercise I've done, and I have it on my whiteboard up here, but it's just my why, getting in touch with it. Um, why I'm walking this life out, why it's important to me, who's important to me. Um, and then of course having some core values. I'm the kind of man that's committed. I'm the
Hmm.
kind of man that, builds a great business. I'm the kind of man that, loves and nurtures and affirms my children, and just having this focus and this core values and, a creed almost to live by is, where I find the strength, because days come, right, where,
Hmm.
especially as an entrepreneur, where it gets discouraging, like you need this payment to come in, you need to close this person, right? uh,
Uh-huh.
um and those times get frustrating, and you're just like almost waiting in limbo, where it could be 48 hours where you're just kind of like, "Ooh, man, hope this works out." And so
Hmm.
during those times, just look at the why and just hold on to it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, brother?
Oh
uh,
yeah. That happens sometimes far too often than not.
yeah.
especially in the, the beginning phases entrepreneur journey, where again we're still, still figuring some things out sometimes. And really it's a big test of your faith if this is actually, it was God's calling you for it. Sometimes he makes the steps easy, but
Yeah.
there's no denying that there's challenges involved,
Right.
and there's some things that's not so easy involved with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Mm.
having those, yeah, like you brought some really good, core value, core beliefs. And one of my thing, between both me and my wife together when we started our marriage was, and I don't have the exact scriptures in Matthew, where it talks about the wise man who built his house on a rock.
Oh yeah. Powerful.
And yeah, the winds come and the rains come and everything come to try to knock it down, but it's built on that steady foundation. Um, so again, it's one of those things where it's all encompassing, is to make sure that we have that foundation in our faith. So like when things starts happening, literally at 4:30 in the morning, I'm in my prayer closet, which is my office. It's actually right here, just with the computer on, and I'm deep into prayer, and just being grateful, being giving thanks for the opportunity to have our own business, to have 3 kids, to have wonderful wife, and
Yeah.
that really just kind of sets the tone, and really just keeps me again focused on my why, keeps me focused on the mission, and able to block out the noise that can come from things that need to happen that really ultimately only God's in control of.
Yeah. Mm. I have a question. It's just kind of lingering on my mind. It's like, how hard was it to transition from, being raised or probably accepting, being a Muslim and then transitioning? Was it a lot of struggle to let go of certain things, or?
Not really, not necessarily for me.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't. It was different. Like my biggest concern was like, oh, what's my family gonna think, and things like that.
Right.
And that's obviously a lot of people's concern too as well. Um,
They probably
but
thought you fell off the wagon.
yeah, right. But the biggest thing is that when like what I experienced it didn't involve the 5 senses. It didn't involve something that you can like,
So it wasn't
touch,
like a
taste, see,
mind
and
intellect thing,
it
right?
was, yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's
purely
powerful.
like, yeah, it was purely supernatural. And then when that change happened, it was like there was no like, oh, I'm giving up, my entire belief system and this and that. It's like it's not where it's like, oh, I love my car, but I'm gonna sell it to go buy a new car or something like that. But I'm so comfortable in my seat, things like that. It's that's probably a really bad analogy, but
No, I totally
um,
get it. Like,
yeah,
it
right. So
wasn't
it's
this
it
intellectual mind, you weren't accepting up here, you're accepting it right here. So,
exactly, yeah. It was a hard thing, really.
yeah.
So that's really what it was. It wasn't. There were some difficulties as far as like telling family and stuff like that, because again, certain people in my family, they helped raise me, help to be there for me, and again, that's part of their foundation of their faith. And but I think things change, not just in me but in them too as well.
Yeah.
And being more open to like receiving the gospel and seeing the change it had in my life, right? Because I hid my alcohol and drugs very well, but it was still obvious. It wasn't like no one knew, like, oh, that's a surprise. I would
Right.
tell there was something going on with this kid. But there's a big transformation that's happened that makes it um, people being more supportive rather than
That's awesome.
judgmental and non-receiving.
Probably seen that it was working.
Yeah.
The last question I have for you is, what would you give, advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out on this journey? We do this podcast, with a recovery mindset, but we're open to, business because we're totally holistic. But there's people starting out on this journey of faith, and they just need a little help and a little encouragement. So if you can for a moment, talk to that person. They're just starting out on this journey, got a couple days clean, a couple weeks clean, months, whatever. What would you say to them?
Yeah, right now you're starting off, and the biggest thing is to immerse yourself, surround yourself with people who are going to uplift you, going to affirm you, going to keep you motivated, going to keep you